Hey everybody, the communication guy here with some quick tips on how to make some last minute refinements and kind of polish up that first speech, which I know that a lot of you are going to be doing tomorrow, maybe a little bit nervous. So I just wanted to remind you, take a deep breath, relax and realize that this speech is worth the least amount of points and it's your first speech, so just relax. It's really easy. So first of all of the GTAs, we're really not going to be looking at any one particular thing overall. We're going to be looking at overall, how did your speech go? You know, everybody's going to be a little bit nervous, so it really comes down to how well did you manage that nervousness. You know, were you the person that was, puking all over the front row? I mean, it's not that big of a deal for me. I'm in the back row, but you might lose some potential partners. Or were you the person who went up there, might have felt incredibly nervous on the inside, kind of freaking out, but delivered their speech in a nice, calm manner, finished within the allotted amount of time, and, got your applause and sat down. Boom, you're done. It's that easy. So first of all, we're looking at your kind of overall nervousness management, not necessarily in one thing in particular. Next, one thing that can either be kind of a minor thing or it can be a very major thing depending on the person, really. And these are filler words. These include like, so. Now these are all words that when people don't necessarily know what they're going to be saying next, or they're feeling a little bit nervous, they'll use these filler words just to kind of fill things up. And it's a lot easier to actually not do something rather than is to do something, right? Right. So just practice through a few times and they'll virtually be completely eliminated. So that takes care of that. It's really, really simple. Next, don't be afraid to use your arms a little bit. You can gesture. That's totally okay. Now, there's a big difference, however, when gesturing with a purpose to emphasize or further something that you're saying, as opposed to kind of like scattered random movements, not really having any connection to the words that you're actually saying. So whenever you do any type of a gesture, you want to be sure that it's emphasizing something about what you're saying. Next, we're gonna allow you to have some note cards, maybe a sheet of paper. For my classes, whatever comfortable for the first speech, you can bring up. If you need to bring up a teddy bear to have something just kind of look at, fine, whatever. It's totally fine. Now, one thing though is when you've got this piece of paper, there are some things that can kind of happen with that. First and foremost, when people are holding things, they can do what Mr. Gregory Peer calls the dinosaur. Now, this is basically where once you've got something in your hands, your elbows are suddenly glued to the sides of your shoulders. They don't move. Even if you do gestures, you're kind of doing this kind of thing. And that doesn't really help you at all because it makes you, frankly, it's kind of weird in a way. So don't be afraid to let out some of that nervousness and don't be afraid to fully gesture. So don't be the dinosaur, don't be that guy, don't be afraid to, extend your arms a little bit. It's not that bad. The next thing that, if you end up bringing up, especially if you bring up a piece of paper, is people will slowly start to kind of crumble around their paper. So even if it's in one hand, they might kind of do these kind of things, and it becomes painfully obvious to the audience, even if it's not totally obvious to the speaker. Now the speaker is just kind of going through their speech, but as they're going, they're still kind of crumbling up their paper, and by the end, they kind of have like this big wadded mash of what used to be some notes for their outline, which in reality you probably didn't need all that much anyway because you practiced, right? Yeah, right. So the next thing, and women are actually much more notorious for this one, and I hope this thing I can catch this on camera a little bit, but is the hip lean. And I'll show you what this kind of looks like. Basically, women will come up, they'll come up and start speaking, and suddenly this kind of comes into play. And they've got this huge lean basically just on one side, and they'll do their entire speech as if they're talking like this. Now, there isn't necessarily inherently wrong with this. If we're doing kind of a conversation with, your conversation with friends, it's totally fine. As one of my students said last semester, that's just how girls talk. Well, that might be how girls talk. However, you're a woman giving a presentation, giving a speech. So while you have all the focus on you, put your best foot forward. I mean, have everything, you've got all the eyes on you, so have a nice upright, you've got a good posture upright back, and don't be afraid to walk around a little bit, not necessarily nervous pacing, but if you take a step around every now and then, it's really not the worst thing in the world. But the one thing that you definitely want to avoid, which became very, very obvious throughout the entire semester last time, was watching women fall into this. Now, I don't know why it's necessarily more women than guys. Guys don't really tend to do this one as often, but just make sure that both feet firmly planted on the ground, you give your presentation. One way to make sure that you kind of have nice posture is just kind of pretending from like the center, kind of like the sternum right here, is that there's a little string kind of coming up. If you just imagine there's like this string coming up, then it kind of automatically like arches your back a little bit, it relaxes your shoulders, and you can go up and deliver an awesome presentation. So I'm really looking forward to all of your presentations. I know that you're going to do great. Just be sure to take a deep breath, relax, and have a little bit of fun with it, because once you realize how easy public speaking is, it can actually be fun. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in class.